I just finished season 2, act 3 of Arcane, and I feel kind of conflicted. I filmed my thoughts on act 2, which we will watch that. We will watch that before we go into my act 3 thoughts. But as an overall, I feel the confliction that I felt about Silco and Jinx's relationship from season 1. I've had a day to marinate in this confliction. Overall, I still really enjoyed this season. It was weird. There was a lot of WTF moments. I mean, like every moment was like a WTF moment. It was fast-paced in a way that I just couldn't look away. It's like what Jay says to Victor in the end. There's beauty in imperfection. Before I get into act 3, let's use Echo's Z drive and go back in time to talk about Act 2, because past me talked about Act 2. I mean, I just want Jinx and Vi to have a happy ending. I don't know if they will. It feels like if they do, it's kind of too basic. But then if they don't, I'm gonna be like wrecked. Act 2 was intense, okay? Act 2 was a little bit too intense. It was a little bit too much. Act 2 was mainly about Isha. Okay? Isha. Okay, no. Isha was like, she wasn't like the main focus, but she was there, and then she was there in the end. Caitlyn rose to power. There was a time skip. The time skips are getting a little bit blurry in this because sometimes it feels like there wasn't a time skip, but then you're just like, okay, something happened between the previous scene and this scene that they didn't show us. So there must have been a time skip. I don't even know how long went by. She's taken over Piltover, but I mean Ambessa. Ambessa is behind her calling all the shots, kind of. Vi is trying to get over Caitlyn, I guess, and Caitlyn is rebounding with one of the guards. One of the guards from Act 1. And then Jinx is trying to kind of lay low. She's not really wanting to be the leader of all this, even though she's like the face of the revolution. Jinx is like Katniss Everdeen. She doesn't want to be. Not that Katniss Everdeen wanted to be the Mockingjay either, but Jinx is like, no, I don't want to be Silco. This isn't my cause. I don't want to do any of this. But Isha, the kid that she kind of adopted, they're like really good friends now. They've developed a really close bond. They're spending a lot of time together. It's all really cute and everything. Isha's really helping Jinx with all of her anxiety, her psychological issues. Isha is like a weighted blanket. And Act 2 is when we really get to see Warwick and how he was Vander, which I was already spoiled on. And then Warwick has this interaction with Jinx. They're like fighting. She's like a trigger for him. And then he's like, oh my god, powder? Because of that, she goes back and kind of reconciles with Vi, and then they go and try to help Warwick, and because he's Vander. And we actually get a lot of flashbacks in which we learn that Vander was like friends with Vi and Jinx's mom, and Silco. Them three were kind of like a trio. I don't actually know the real conflict between Silco and Vander. It would have been resolved, but I think Silco didn't get to see the letter that Vander wrote for him. I really like how Vander and Silco are like a parallel for Vi and Jinx. And the whole Isha and Jinx is another parallel between like Jinx and Silco. Victor is now this god. I guess he leads a cult now, but he has all the people that he healed. Sky is back. They travel back and forth between that hex tech mythological realm place. I don't even know what that is. Vi and Jinx, they try to take Vander to Victor because I guess he's the only hope. We learned that the Dr. Singe was experimenting on Warwick because he wanted to find a way to bring his dead daughter back. And so it was out of love. And that was another one of those kind of flashbacks. There was a lot of quotes in this act that I really enjoyed too. Everything's going great, but then Caitlyn and Ambessa and the Enforcers, they come. Freaking Ambessa is into powerful weapons, and she's like, I would like to use Warwick as my weapon. Everyone's about to have a showdown in Victor's spiritual cult area. And also, Jace. He is also here. I don't know. Last we saw him, he was with Echo and Heimerdinger, and they were in the arcane hextech. They were in the magical hextech realm too. And I guess a lot of time has passed because Jace has grown a beard. And now he has a very serious vendetta against Victor. Like, he is on a mission to take Victor out, which felt a little bit sudden. But at the same time, I'm like, Jace seems a little bit out of his mind, so maybe he's being controlled. I don't know what's going on. He's like hallucinating. He's not in the right state of mind. Vi and Caitlyn also meet up again. I don't know. I just feel like they rushed through Caitlyn's story because Act 1, it seemed like they were really building her up to have this really epic villain arc. It seemed like she was going to do something, but then they kind of just time skipped in the beginning over her control over Piltover, and then now that she's in Victor's spiritual area, meeting up with Vi again, they're not even like kind of mad at each other. Literally, the moment Vi called her a cupcake, she folded. Okay, Caitlin, okay. They go and try to save Vander. Jace comes and totally just knocks out Victor. Even though I was like, okay, I don't think champions are gonna die in this show, but I don't know. Maybe they will die and then they'll come back, because I feel like Victor's gonna resurrect. I think he's gonna come back on Easter Day, you know? Once Victor is gone, all of the people that he ever interacted with and healed, the souls kind of leave their body, and then Vander also kind of goes berserk. He goes crazy. He becomes completely engulfed by Warwick, and he's just gone. And then they all start fighting the enforcers, and then the people, and then Jinx and Vi, and they're all fighting. But Warwick is like too strong, and then Jinx is knocked out, but then Isha comes and she sacrifices herself. I knew something was gonna happen to Isha, okay? One, it's kind of obvious that something's gonna happen to her. But two, it's really hard to avoid spoilers for the show for some reason. Like, I watched a few Arcane videos and then suddenly my whole feed is just Arcane. So every time I see a thumbnail with her face, so many thumbnails of Isha's face, and I'm just like, okay, something's gonna happen. And then I'm like, why is the background music Chinese? And I'm like, oh my god, I actually heard this song before this act. And I didn't know it was going to be, I thought it was going to be part of the Chinese dub of the show or something. I'm just like, why do we have a Chinese song? But I mean, it works very well. And now I can't listen to that song and not think of that Isha scene. Mel is in this whole Black Rose dimension in which she's kind of trapped, but she's also hallucinating. There's a lot of hallucinations. And it also feels like Vi and Jinx sort of settled their differences kind of quickly. But I guess because of Vander's return, it makes sense, because they were only fighting. Everything started because Vander died, but now Vander's back. And I just didn't know how I felt about that either. I'm just like, he had a great death scene in season 1, you know? And now that you bring him back, it's almost like it kind of cheapens that scene from season 1. But it was very emotional when he came back. He's the glue that's mending all of this. And then he's gone again. But it almost seems like Victor is like Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan. I feel like he's going to be that person. It's like he already saw the whole time loop. And he's the one that's like controlling all of this. Doesn't it seem like that? I feel like that's what's going to happen. Everything that's happening, he specifically made sure each event led to this so that we complete the loop. I don't think this is the end of Victor. Does anyone think that Victor is gone for good? I don't think he is. But I do think Vander's gone. I do think he's finally gone, like, mentally. But then if Victor comes back, will he come back? I don't know. It just felt like so many things happened. But then now that I think about it, now that I've gone through everything, it wasn't that much. It was a lot when I was watching the show, though. I was like, oh my god, what's happening? I don't know. We'll have to see Act 3. I'll be back for Act 3 in the same video. You guys are going to see me, and I'm going to be in different clothes. Hopefully, I'll look different. Hopefully, I'll actually look like I don't wear the same clothes every day. Now that we're done with Act 2, now that we're done with all that happened in Act 2, we go into Act 3. Episode 7, the first episode of Act 3, was just completely different. Alternate universe Echo and Jinx, which I loved. I'm sure I feel like the only thing everyone can probably agree on is that alternate universe Echo and Jinx story was amazing. It was beautiful. It was like, this is not even Jinx, this is Powder. Powder and Echo are actually in a relationship in this beautiful universe where there's no hex tech, where Silco did read the letter that Vander left him. The confliction with this is when they introduced the whole multiverse thing, in my head I was like, oh my champions are not gonna die. But now that they've introduced the whole multiverse thing, I'm just like, they can always be like, this person died in this universe, but in another universe they're still alive. So I never know how I feel about multiverse. It's great to know that, you know, your favorite character, even though they had a tragic story in this universe, there's an infinite number of other universes where they had a great life. Is this their kind of way of saying, hey, yeah, we're gonna kill off champions, but they're alive somewhere else? That aside, the Echo and Jinx thing was great. I love that scene where they're sitting on that ledge looking out at the city. And also in this universe, Zaun is just exactly what Zaun wanted to be. There was no shimmer issue, I feel. There was no hex tech. Everything was great. Everyone was living in peace. Powder and Echo are sitting on the ledge, and it's kind of understood between them that he's not really her boyfriend because he's someone else taken over the body. Well, he is someone else, but he's still Echo. So I'm just like, I don't like the multiverse thing is always like, is it you or is it not you? Because you're kind of not you, but you're also kind of you. But like that kiss where he's like, can we just pretend like it's the first time? It became a romantic story, like one of those romantic sad love stories that I love. And there was also the scene with Heimerdinger sacrificing himself too. I don't know if he's gone. I feel like he's not gone. See, the thing is, a lot of characters were implied to die. I don't know if they died. Once they brought Vander back as Warwick, I don't trust this show anymore. I'm just like, okay, I don't think this character's really gone. And that also kind of impacted my emotions when I was watching scenes of sacrifice. I'm just like, nah, I don't think that character's gone. They're gonna bring this person back. There were a lot of moments in this that was supposed to hit really hard, but there were too many like intense moments that I felt a little bit numb to everything. When you're overstimulated by so many things, it all feels the same. I was pulled in so many directions. There was just so many emotions. Everything was happening back to back pretty quickly. I didn't have time to sit and marinate because there's so many characters in this, and they're trying to wrap up everyone's story arcs in like this one last piece, and it just felt so crazy. I was talking about Victor being like Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan, and he kind of is now. He's on this other mission, achieving this greater evolution, which I don't even know what that is. It just became like he was on a rampage. He was on a mission. He was like Jace on the mission in Act 2, which we didn't get to find out, but then we got to see. We got to see how Jace ended up that way, and it all made sense. But maybe there should have been another episode to explain like why Victor was so intent on getting this greater evolution. At one point in Act 3, it felt like Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't know what was the point in turning everyone like that. I guess maybe to avoid conflict. Like if everyone's the same and there's no emotion, there's nothing, you got a perfect world or something like that. Victor was born a cripple, and maybe he's more susceptible to falling into sort of this kind of ideology where it's like, we want perfection. We don't want any blemishes, and we don't want conflict. And the whole Piltover Zaun conflict is also a parallel to that, I guess. I mean, that was supposed to be the whole story, right? I thought the whole story of Arcane was supposed to be mainly centered on the Piltover Zaun conflict, this gray issue that there's no real solution to. And I thought this show was going to either give a good solution or just say there's really no solution and you just kind of have to deal with conflict in different ways. Like you can't ever avoid it. In the end, Piltover and Zaun sort of got together to fight a greater enemy. I feel like it was sidelined for a very long time. Season 1 was all centered on that conflict, and the whole Vi and Jinx were like the main characters. Season 2 is like you have so many main characters, so many storylines, and they tried to connect it, but it felt somewhat disconnected. Black Rose and Mel thing with Ambessa, I don't know how that relates to the whole Victor Jace thing. And then it's also not really connected to Vi and Jinx. Maybe they're just all parallels of each other and they're kind of interacting. Maybe season 2 should have been 3 seasons. Each act should have been 1 season, and we could have gone deeper into exploring certain storylines in this. When you mix it together, it just feels like it's too fast. I'm like getting too many things thrown at me. I can't absorb it all. In the end, when Jinx finally sacrificed herself, I thought I would be wrecked. But like that Jinx sacrifice scene, I was like so numb at that point, staring at my screen, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then at the same time, I'm like, I don't think she actually died. It was just so sudden that I couldn't react to it properly. And the whole Victor and Jace reveal too, I guess we all kind of saw it coming that he was the cloaked dude that gave baby Jace, or like toddler Jace, or like child Jace the rune, and started his whole obsession with magic and hex tech. And then Victor was like, you know, out of all the possibilities, you're the only person who was able to stop me. And I'm like, I knew it. I knew Jace and Victor were more than just friends. They're like beyond soulmates at this point. And the whole Jace and Mel thing was never revisited. So I'm like, okay, that was just a fling. Jace and Victor are the true couple in this. It works if you don't think about it too hard. I liked that they had such a connection, but at the same time, I don't think I spent enough time with Victor and Jace to really have their bond sort of sink in. It just felt sudden at the end. I knew they were more than friends in some way. They had a little bit of a bromance going on, I think. And then Victor kind of just abandoned Jace. And then Jace was on a vendetta to get rid of Victor. And then in the end, they make up because, hey, I started this whole loop because I knew you were the one. I don't know how I feel about it. And I don't even know what happened to them at the end. See, that's the thing. It's just like it showed them like touching foreheads. And I'm like, ooh, okay. And then they're just gone. And that's like the end of it. I guess it would have connected if maybe he started this whole thing to end the Piltover Zahn conflict. But I don't think Victor was ever connected to that conflict on a personal level enough to like do all of this for. Or maybe they'll explain it later, because I don't think Victor and Jace are gone. It seemed like Ambessa was being controlled. It felt like she kind of went rogue for a while at some point. And in the end, Mel realized that this isn't her mom the way she is. I don't know. I'm making this up now. Rumor has it that they're gonna have another season. They're gonna talk about this story in another separate show. It'll probably be explained. See, at this point, I'm like, if things don't make sense, it's because they're only showing us a portion of it. I'm not gonna dock points for this because it's happened throughout the show that they would show us something and then tell us why. It was a lot to look at. It was a lot to absorb. It was a lot. It was just a lot. Everything was a lot.